Thursday. Joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett from Texas. She's a member of both the House Agriculture and House Oversight and Accountability Committees. Congresswoman Crockett, thank you for being with us. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know, and I'm not a decision maker. I'm a voter like everybody else. I'm not sure what the right thing to do is about that debate. I am sure that a bad debate performance by an 80-year-old guy who's given a lot of time to this country, who's not convicted of anything, who generally is not thought of as a person who lies. I've not heard anybody say that about it, who is a compassionate, empathetic being in the face of an opposition of Donald Trump is a no-brainer. So everybody needs to slow their roll for a minute while we think about what the next steps are.
Yeah, it is so wild to me, and it's been quite annoying, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, that Democrats get into a frenzy. I mean, it's almost like we're scared of our shadow sometimes, right? And I think it's because we understand the stakes, and everybody's saying we've got to have the best of the best. And let me tell you something, there is no better heart, there is no better man. And honestly, when it comes down to being an orator, that's never been who Joe Biden has been. I mean, I think that Obama kind of maybe hurt us in a little bit, and Lord knows I love him. But we got used to this amazing orator. And then you've got Trump. He's not an amazing orator whatsoever, but he knows how to just keep talking. And he'll say anything. One of the things that was so frustrating to me when I saw this debate in Atlanta was this fool tried to take credit for insulin prices. And I was like, that was the perfect opportunity to be like, and y'all call me now. He obviously is senile because he is now trying to take credit for my legislation. I would have double dog dared him to tell me what bill that came out of. So, I'm just like, dude, like this guy is crazy. He's evil. And then when I listened to the segment before and you're talking about really issues as it relates to Project 2025, because they do want to install loyalists. They don't want those government workers like my mama, who has always worked for the federal government so long as I can remember, the people that have the institutional knowledge to make sure that they can carry our country forward, and they work under whichever administration, Democratic or Republican. They don't swear their loyalty to an orange Jesus. Instead, they swear their loyalty to the people of this country and our Constitution. And that is the problem that we're running into. So I don't really care if he was off for 90 minutes and didn't put on like people wanted him to put on. The reality is that he is 50,000 times better than Trump, and Republicans will not leave Trump. And he has 34 felony convictions and still got over 50 pending.
So you make an interesting point. Joe Biden's never been a masterful orator, and he's never actually been a particularly strong debater. It's just not his strength. That said, Donald Trump is a remarkably useful idiot for the far right and Project 2025. Project 2025 has found the guy that the Heritage Foundation and the super conservative establishment in this country has found their tool. If he gets elected, because he generally speaking doesn't read policy, certainly doesn't write policy, so they've given him the policy. Here's the problem that a lot of people have identified who are not they're not pearl clutching about this, is that what's the best way to move forward and defeat Donald Trump in the next election? And how do you convince voters who became very skeptical on Thursday night that this is still the path forward?
Yeah, here's the reality. I mean, we have two choices. It is very clear. You can either go with Donald Trump, who gave us a Supreme Court that is continuing to do harm, who absolutely plans to put additional Supreme Court justices on the bench, as well as install other idiotic judges such as Eileen Cannon, such as Kaczmarek, down in Texas, who handled the mifepristone case. Like, if that's the America that you want, then absolutely go vote for Donald Trump. But if you want an America in which repro is a reality, if you want an America where you can love whoever you want to love, that is going to be Joe Biden's America. And let's talk about the fact that this fool wanted to tell us about black jobs, right? Like, let's be clear. Donald Trump not understand Black culture. What he's doing is playing in our faces, and he's got people that he wants to sit up there and throw out as little tokens and be like, hey, look at my Black friend. That's essentially what he does. But at the end of the day, I need people to choose themselves. If everybody is saying that the economy is number one, then please tell me why you would vote for Donald Trump when he refused to answer any economic question. He has no plan. He never has had a plan. And the only plan that he plans to follow is the manifesto that's been laid out in Project 2025 that believes that DEI is the end of us. So that means that people like me, people of color, women, that's a problem for them. They want to excommunicate us. Like, they are trying to give the keys over to the white supremacists, as we also saw the Supreme Court do earlier this week as it relates to the insurrectionists. Like, I need people to wake up. I know that they say that they don't want us to be woke, and this is exactly why. Because they want us to be asleep while they continue to take our rights, while they continue to reform our courts, while they continue to say that we don't want you to have access to the ballot box. This is about all of us. So if people want to be honest with themselves, what they need to do is look at which team delivers for you. If you are happy about the dollars that are flowing into your community because of the infrastructure, because of the CHIPS and Science bill, because of the reduction in the cost of insulin that was due to the Democrats, House Democrats, Senate Democrats, and this Democratic administration. It is time to choose yourself and figure out which team is riding with you. If you want more of the chaos that we have seen out of this House, that's all you're going to get ×3 if you decide to go with Donald Trump, because he's loud and wrong.
Democratic Representative Jasmine Crockett bringing it this morning. Thank you for being with us as always. We always appreciate the time that you take for us. Another hour of Velshi starts right now.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.